G'day everyone and welcome to another edition of the Weekend Wrap, brought to you by Crowcast, of course. Very interesting round of footy. Not a great result for the Crows, but nonetheless we're still in the hunt for the consolation prize. So without any further ado, let's get right into it, shall we? Hello, and welcome to another Weekend Wrap, round 20 of the 2021 AFL Premiership season. An interesting round of footy, and joining me, as always, Nikki. How you going, Nick?
I'm going well, and you?
I'm not bad for an old fella. And Macca, speaking of old fellas, how you going?
You're only saying that because you knew I was a stowaway on the ark. But no, I'm pretty tired. I've been watching every bloody game of footy. I've enjoyed it, but I live every moment, so I'm buggered.
Yeah, I can imagine that. I didn't get around to watching much footy today. I had too much else to do, but nevertheless, I'm sure we'll have a vigorous discussion about the weekend's results. G'day to everyone who's joined us on Discord and, of course, on YouTube. Fantastic to see everyone with us once again. We have some people already in the live studio audience. Don't forget, if you want to get around the chat and have your say, get into the live audience on Discord, and put your hand up and we'll have you on board. But nonetheless, even if you don't want to do that, there's plenty of activity on the chat on YouTube and also on Discord live studio chat. Okay. Nick, before we get into Macca's wonderful world of whatever it is, fame, what do you think of the weekend?
I've only just checked on like a couple of scores and things like that. I watched our game, watched a little bit of the Hawthorn one because that was just hilarious, and just now was just watching GWS get in front of Port, so that's always vastly amusing.
Yeah, it's always fun. Mac, what do you think?
Well, it's been a weekend of some surprise results and some disappointing performances by teams trying to get in the eight. It just seems like nobody really wants to consolidate their position because every time they get a chance, they blow it. But no, there's been some good games. Most of the games were pretty good, actually, to watch. So, yeah, I enjoyed the footy.
Yeah, very good, very good. Well, look, without any further ado, Mac, why don't we just get into Macca's beloved weekend results wrap-up? Oh, it's not going to play my music. Damn it.
You have to hum it, see?
I don't know why it's not playing my music. Never mind. All right, let's have a look. And that's not going to work. How about we do that? That's better. So the Saints on, when was that? Bloody Friday night, 12-9-81, getting absolutely pantsed by the Blues by 31 points, 18-4, 1-1-2. Margin, as I said, 31 points, Mac.
I know what you've done there, mate, but you made your voice going all quavery. Quavery. Back to the game, St Kilda and Carlton. St Kilda, how disappointing a team they are. They've got a leader in Jack Steele who played a magnificent game. He's played his heart out. And Marshall, who had to miss the last two games due to the COVID situation. Not that he had it. And he came back and he absolutely dominated. But gee, some of their players are so pissed. They don't really go hard, and that's really the difference. You can play football, and you can go through the motions of playing football, or you can really, really play football. And I'm afraid that's St Kilda did not play football as you should play it. And to get beaten by Carlton, and comfortably beaten by Carlton, well, that says it all, really.
It's just such a turnaround in form. How's my audio, by the way? Is that better?
Yeah, that's
Perfect.
good.
Yeah.
Perfect.
It's just such a turnaround in form from one week to the next. It's very hard to follow these middle-of-the-road teams between about 6 and 12. They're just up and down like yo-yos. It's quite unbelievable this year. Never mind. The next game, the Cats doing what they needed to do and getting up by 20 points over a gallant North Melbourne, 8-14-62 to 6-6-42.
Yeah, didn't see all of this game because I was in and out of the games. But, well, as you said, North Melbourne very, very good early. Geelong gradually wore them down, gradually got in top, gradually got on control. Just too good.
Yep, that's how it boiled down, really. They just had to get the W in that game.
Yep.
Now, the Pies just showing us a little bit more, if in case anyone was still in doubt, how much of a bunch of pretenders the West Coast are. 14-6-90 to 6-9-45, a convincing margin of 45 points. West Coast never looked in it.
Yeah, well, Collingwood did the right thing. They jumped us. They've gone up a position, and we've gone down a position in our quest for the Holy Grail.
Well, no, we're not doing that. According to you guys, we're not doing that. But anyway, keep going.
No, you misinterpreted that. I would love to do it.
Keep going.
Anyhow, what I was going to say there was that when you see the way that Collingwood actually played, you just wonder why they hadn't won more games. And I thought they played pretty good footy, actually. And they've got some pretty quality players there, mate.
Yeah,
Grundy and Adam.
Yeah, they do. I think Collingwood need every part of the engine working for them at the moment. They're probably just a little bit down on the peripheral of their score of their 22, but when they do get all their good players firing, they are dangerous. You're right, but
yep, and the reverse with West Coast, mate, they are a disgrace. Anybody in their right mind would have picked Collingwood because West Coast they just leave their hearts back in Perth and they turn up physically, but that's about it.
Well,
I mean, and wasn't it Bunga's like 300th?
Yes, it was.
Yeah.
That
Terribly
didn't inspire them.
disappointing for that person.
He's
been a stalwart of that club, and for them to put up that display in such a game, very disappointing.
Well, you can rule them out as a premiership chance anyhow. They can't win.
Yeah. Almost ruling them out as a bloody top 8 chance, to be honest with you.
Yep.
Never mind. Speaking of ruling out of top 8 chances, Melbourne destroying the Suns, 18-20. That's 28 scoring shots to 10. 18 goals, 20. 128 to the Suns, 4 goals, 630. Just a lazy 98 points for the D's. Yes.
Basically, Melbourne versus Took Miller and a couple others. Really, that's how the game was. He tries his guts out, that bloke. He just runs and runs and runs.
Good player.
But yeah, he is a very good player. But no, just look, if the AFL is serious, they would be trying to get Clarkson. I mean, Jew's not going to be the man for them. They've got a bundle.
I don't think you can say that, mate.
Well, they're not improving, mate. They're just not improving. And they have some good players in that side, and I don't think that they didn't perform. You saw what, Rankin went by the wayside because of very poor performances, and he's got some mates out there that will do the same. They just don't perform.
I don't think it's the coach.
Well, what do you think it is?
Well, it's just not a club. It's just a franchise. It's not a club, and these kids would rather be somewhere else, I think.
Oh, that I agree with. I think that they definitely play as if they'd rather be somewhere else.
Yeah, it's not a club. I mean, you'd rather be playing for the Lions if you're up there, or back in a football state. Anyway, now the Hawthorns just making the Hawks making our win against them just that much more amazing. 14 goals, 892. The Hawks by 2 goals over the Lions, 12-8-80.
Couldn't believe it. Could not believe it. I mean, I watched them play us last week, and the effort that they put in against us last week, totally different. They started out as if they were world beaters, and in fact won the game really in the first half. And Brisbane tried to get back into it, but how can you? The difference in effort, the difference in the way they play, the difference in everything. It's just irreconcilable. I can't explain it, Fee.
Can't explain it. Nick, did you see that game?
I only saw bits towards the end because I was checking the scores, but I was unfortunately doing some adulting, and I saw it towards the end, and it was kind of amusing that Mitchell was laughing on the bench about it. Yeah, but to me, I think where you can find an explanation of it is the youth of the team, because that's why you have those up and down performances, because that's what we've seen from our team. But it's also a case of they now have to pull their finger out if they want to stay in that team.
Well, the interesting thing is that young ruckman of theirs, he's 208 centimetres officially, but he's 211 centimetres actually, apparently. He's got a real asset to them over the years, because nobody else can jump up the size of his arms.
No, we saw what an asset Sandlands was to Fremantle when he was up and about. Look, personally, I enjoyed a comment that was made in, I think, the Crows Chat channel, that Hawthorn might regret sacking Clarkson because he's going to try and win every game now.
Now, seriously, that's what I thought too. I actually thought that too. I think they tanked against us, and I think once they've now told him to go, that's the only way I could logically explain the difference in the way they played and in the game styles game plan styles that they played as well.
Well, they played a bit differently, in my opinion.
They did. That's my point.
Yeah.
I think you're right.
Well, I think I won't take credit of it. There was, I'm not sure who, I can't remember who said it in the chat, but someone said it, and I thought, yeah, it's a bloody good point. Clarkson's a proud man, and I don't care what the media front has been this week. He would be not happy with how things have gone down at Hawthorn, and rightly so, in my opinion. So he'll try and make every post a winner on the way out, I reckon.
I think you're 100% right.
Good game between Sydney and Essendon. Sydney getting up in the end, 17-7-109. Whoops, 40 points. That's not right. It was 7 points. Sorry, that's my bad editing there. Essendon 16-6-102.
Yeah, excellent game to watch, really, because there's some quality stuff from both sides here. Merit for Essendon, he was absolutely outstanding. He did everything possible to get him up. And on the other hand, Mills came straight back in after another guy that had the time off for COVID and can absolutely dominated with a huge score. Then, of course, Buddy up forward, he was a danger all game. It was not that much in it, but the difference being Sydney just that little bit physically stronger, a little bit more mature, sticking to their usual game plan. Essendon played their dashing style, which they play, which is great when it works and not so good when it doesn't come off. But overall, it was an excellent game as a spectacle to watch. There's a lot of good footy to enjoy.
Yeah, I think what Ben's going to have to do at some stage is work out a plan to a bit more of a defensive strategy. This all-out attack that Essendon do is fantastic, but they get done going the other way a bit.
They do.
Now, of course, we have a couple of games in progress here. Let me just look them up and see where we're at with it.
I know, they're all finished by Port.
Oh, they're all finished now? All right,
Yep.
So it was a draw.
Okay.
Oh, no, Freo got up 7-13-55 to Richmond 6-15-51. So Freo by 4 points.
Yeah, it was not a great spectacle in terms of quality of football. It was very, very scrambly, very, very scratchy, and it was very, very physical. Freo really jumped Richmond early, got a bit of a break, and just would not give in. Every time Richmond came at them, they just came back again. Richmond, I mean, this is this is, I know they've got a few players out, but this is not the same Richmond that we've been watching for the last few years. This is a team, I think, that's about to go into major decline, and they won't be playing finals this year, or if they do, they won't be any threat, and I don't think they will be now for a number of years. I've written them off.
Written them off completely. They've still got a lot of talent, Mac. I reckon.
Yeah.
I reckon they've run out of mental puff. To be honest with you, a couple of off-season occurrences in the club rooms, and 2-3 flags on the board. I reckon they've mentally just run out of steam. I think they might bounce back next year a bit. Not saying that they'll be premiership contenders or premiership favourites or whatever, but I think they'll bounce back a bit.
Well, that's basically what I'm saying, that they might get up to next year, have a better year, but I still don't think they'll get another flag, not for a few years, even if they got up to second or third, because they're just falling off the pace, and after players won 3 premierships like they did, they're just not as good. Just lose a little.
Yeah, interesting to see what will happen with Shai Bolton actually over the off season. Whether he goes back west or whether he sticks for another contract at Richmond. I'll tell you what, I wouldn't mind the Crows chucking a nice little sum at him.
He's an interesting player because he's an absolute match winner on his day, but he can have days where you don't see him.
Yeah, but you know what, Mac? If we're talking about outside pace, there's your man right there.
Yeah.
There's your man. The game's still in progress, about 3.5-4 minutes into the last quarter. Port at the moment by 7 points, 11 goals, 672 to the Giants. Probably on their last gasp, I reckon, in terms of really entrenching themselves in the 8. If they win their, what's that? That's they'll be 6 points clear with a couple of games to go. That'll just about see them right. But if they lose this one, it leaves the door open for Essendon and, surprisingly, Richmond and Carlton, and also Fremantle, and also St Kilda on 32. So it's bottling up there at the end, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, as I said last week, that we pronounced it 4 weeks ago. It's all over in the 8, but no.
Yeah,
it's just up. Who would like to predict who's going to finish in the 8 now?
And the thing is, it doesn't really matter anyway. just having a look at the ladder, we've got the Bulldogs on top with 60, along with Geelong just under them on percentage. Melbourne clear in third on 58. Port and Sydney on 52 apiece. Port can go up to 56 with the win, of course. Brisbane on 48. West Coast, I don't know how they're still there, on 40. The Giants on 34, could go up to 38 with a win. And as bad as West Coast are playing, Macca, it's hard to see them missing out. They're two games clear of that log jam.
Yeah, well, there'll be somebody's easy meat if they have to play away from home.
Yeah. Well, Essendon, Richmond, Carlton, Fremantle, St Kilda on 32 points. Collingwood, Gold Coast and Adelaide on 24 points. Hawthorn on 22 points. And North Melbourne on 18 points. So as it stands, we're 2 points shy of pick 2 and 6 points shy of pick 1. And I just have a sneaking feeling, Macca, just a sneaking feeling that the Adelaide North Melbourne game in round 23 might end up being the Jason Horn Cup.
I hope you're right. I genuinely hope you're right. I think we could win that if we got the.
Well, we'll win it either way. We'll either win the match or win the pick.
No, I'm talking about Jason Horn. Look, if it does get down to that, I would be furious if they didn't just pick a heap of young lads and go out there and just have a kick.
Yeah, what do you think North Melbourne are going to do?
Who's that?
Whose youngsters are better than whose youngsters?
Yeah. Never mind. Look, we did that to death last week, so I really don't want to get bogged down in that conversation again this week.
All right.
I think everyone knows how everyone feels about it.
I just think it's kind of interesting that we did have that massive discussion on it, and we were basically lamenting, that it was no chance for us to be down the bottom, etc., etc. And now it's like I just looked at the other games come up, going, you know what? We can probably get the second pick.
Well, we might get pick 2.
Yeah.
North are playing pretty decent footy. I mean, it was, a bit of a slog against Geelong. Well, it was a bit of a slog, but they certainly weren't out of it. So anyway, let's deal with the match at hand, shall we? And the match at hand told us that the Dogs got up by 49 points in the end, 15-15, 105 to Adelaide 8-8, 56. Nikki, I'll go with you first. It didn't really feel like a 49-point game, did it?
No, and we've said this a couple of times already this year, and to me, like there's been a couple of games, and thank God I never watched the Essendon one, but I've been kind of dirty at with the way it ended. But when this one ended, it was like, yeah, I'll turn it off. It was expected that the Bulldogs were going to win.
Yeah.
But I thought we had some really nice passages of play. A couple of the youngsters actually stood up quite nicely. The backline very much so, which you think is weird when you're saying it's a 50-point loss or 49-point loss. But I actually thought the backline played very well because we're playing the team that is probably the number one team, and some of our players didn't look out of place out there.
Mate, what do you think?
Well, that's a very good summary by Nikki, because I didn't disagree with one thing she said, actually. It didn't feel like an 8-goal loss in the sense that we just lacked that little bit of polish that they have, and that's really the difference in the game. They've got a mighty midfield, although Bontempelli was held fairly quiet by his standards. McRae, of course, gets his 30-odd, like he always does. And Smith, I thought he was probably their best player across the centre line. And that's probably why they won the game again, because they just got that drive. Nicky's quite right. I thought under the pressure that the backline was under and the number of times the ball came in there, the backline guys can hold their head up high. I thought they played pretty well. Look, we were just... They're probably the... I do regard them as the number one team and the team to beat for the grand final. And to be beaten by 8 goals by them, I don't think was any disgrace at all. So I was quite happy.
Yeah, I thought lots of areas of our game showed promise or showed endeavour. I just feel like we were beaten by a team that is firing on all cylinders at the moment, and in the end they were just far too strong. I don't feel like the venue really favoured us. I don't think we played the venue particularly well, but you can understand that. How many times are you going to play up at bloody Ballarat? So in the end, I think it was a serviceable sort of a game. Really, look, I've got to actually say this, and this isn't to reignite last week's conversation. I just found it really hard to get excited by this game.
Yeah, that's a fair comment too, because I think we all knew the result before the game started, and I know what you're saying. We're a little bit flat from where we sit in terms of the ladder, and we're really going through the motions for the end of the year, and this was just one of those games we went through the motions for. There's another 3 to go through. They may mean something, they may mean nothing. And when I say that, the sad part of it is only may mean something if we were to be losing all the time. And if we win a game, that probably would be nice, but it wouldn't mean much, not at this stage.
Yeah. And, it really makes me make the point that what was the point in beating Hawthorn last week?
Well, it was stupid.
But you wanted a winning culture last week. We had a big, long, bloody conversation about it.
No, I still say you've obviously misinterpreted me.
Maybe.
Because no, you had because I was as flat as a pancake after we won. Flat as a pancake.
Yeah, now look, we won't rub it on.
What?
My apologies to
No,
everyone because I've brought that up again.
what I would have said to you last week was the fact that, from a coach's point of view, they want winning cultures. But that doesn't necessarily mean that we think the same way.
Yeah. Look, let's have a look at. I jumped the gun there a little bit. Let's just have a look at. Oh my goodness me. Macca, there are times where you just wonder who's driving this train because I'm clicking screens here like crazy.
You.
And it's just not happening for me. Let's have a look at the lineup, shall we? Interesting select. Oh, for all the talk on Billy Frampton, we dropped him, and I felt like we were one tall short as a consequence down back.
I didn't feel that thing. No, I didn't feel that. Who do you think was the person who gave us the problem?
Oh, well, I just think it was the matchup in general. I felt like we could have actually done with that third tall, whether it be Frampton or whoever else. I'm not talking about the individual, but I just felt like with Ugle-Hagan, Josh Bruce and Aaron Norton there, I actually feel like, once again, we stifled ourselves by signing, Duday and Kelly and those mid-sized defenders to a lockdown.
Well, that's probably a fair situation. I didn't think Murray played all that badly, though.
I'm not saying that the guys that were picked played badly. I'm talking about the actual matchup. So it was actually a situation where they have three genuine tall forwards, and we dropped one.
Well, if we did get the matchups wrong, it would be no surprise because I don't think we've got them right all year.
Well, I don't know how you look at their team. They've been playing those three all year, and Ugle-Hagan is actually starting to become a little bit of a threat as the season has progressed and shown something. Norton's always a danger, and if you let Josh Bruce off the chain, he can actually do some damage as well. And I just didn't kind of understand what the thinking was. Every time that we have assigned Duday/Kelly to a lockdown role, we've lacked run out of defence. We ended up playing Brodie Smith quite deep instead of where he was named on the wing to try and generate some run. But in my opinion, we were short an intercept defender. Duday did his best and took some nice intercept marks, but I just felt like the matchups were all wrong.
Except for the fact that those players only got them 5 goals out of their 15.
Yeah, but it's not just about
so
that.
It wasn't their tools. I didn't have a problem with it. I actually thought our tools did fairly well, considering it. And some of those passes that even if you had somebody else and you had an intercept, even if you had Duday loose and coming across, there was no way he was going to be able to outmark Ugle-Hagan with the way the deliveries and those ones were done. I didn't have a problem with that at all. I think Frampton should have been dropped with Murray coming back in. The question is, do you then not have Kelly in the team and you have Frampton instead? Which one do you want?
Well, I mean, in that sense, I think Jake Kelly spent half his time playing on a small.
Yeah, which is generally what he does. He generally takes more the mid to smaller defenders. He doesn't take a tall. He only takes a tall when we have an injury or something like that happens.
Yeah, I know all of that. And that's what I'm saying. The matchups were wrong. I mean, they ended up playing Josh Bruce up the ground a bit for large portions of the game. And
I don't think he really had an impact doing that.
No.
It wasn't him. It was their midfield. I thought.
No, I'm not saying that their forward line overpowered us, Nick. I'm talking about the matchups, and to me, it was a strange decision, and it seems to be inherent on us to seem to want to go into matches with Duday having responsibility for a third tall, and he did quite well with the intercepts that he took, but it took him actually coming off his man quite a bit.
Yeah, look, and even if you are right, though, Fame, Nicky's also right. The real damage was done up in the midfield area.
No doubt.
That's where they have the classiest midfield in the competition, and we got the brunt of it.
Yeah, I think they've got the most balanced midfield. I think the D's with Petrarca and Oliver have a 1-2 punch that's pretty solid, but it falls away a little bit. Whereas the Bulldogs can throw a number of players at you through that rotation, and they're all pretty good quality. We had D-Mac as a sub. I didn't mind that. Lockie Scholl omitted. I didn't mind that. I wasn't enamoured by the replacement. And, we can have conversations about Tom Lynch and Lockie Murphy as well, if you like, but I think I've probably done that to death.
I thought Lockie Murphy had a reasonably good game, team.
Yeah, he did. Not saying he did. Not saying he didn't.
And,
only flew for about 3 marks on the wing that he shouldn't have, but that was all right.
I mean, that is the frustrating part of his game, yes. He doesn't seem to realise that he's not the size of a ruckman. But with ball in hand, he does better than most, I think. I think he did some good things.
Does better than most where?
The football. No, I'm seriously. I thought that as a small, he did as good as any other small on the ground. His biggest problem is he flies for the balls coming in high when he shouldn't be.
Yeah, but you can't actually fob that off. I remember specifically a moment on the near side wing where he was running to the back of the contest. I think it was Himmelberg going up. We were kicking with the breeze. The ball was always going to go over the back. He was actually in a good spot to crumb the ball because both players, Elliott and the Bulldogs player, had kind of got underneath the ball, as you tend to do when the ball's kicked with the wind. And what did he do? Went up for the hang, didn't he? And
he did.
As a result, the Bulldogs got the ball. And, I think Lockie Murphy does some very good things at ground level, absolutely. But those key moments, that's concentration, Macca. That's remembering what your role is. And Lockie Murphy should not ever think that it's his responsibility to fly for a mark against 2 key position players.
Yep, I don't disagree with that particular comment.
What Surf's saying on the chat is completely false. He's saying it's not Murphy's fault, though our players don't kick to our tools a lot of the time. I saw 3 or 4 occasions where Murphy jumped against our tall forwards.
Yeah, that is true.
Especially against Himmelberg.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it's a flaw in his game. It's concentration, in my opinion.
Yeah, he actually spoiled us taking a mark by doing it in one case. Yep.
Yeah. So that aside, he did well at ground level. And he does some good things. But that's a part of his game that he really needs to work on. Tom Lynch, I'm not quite sure why we need Tom in the team. He picks up kicks and he does some good things and he does some average things. And
he goes missing for large periods of time.
It's his last year, you would think. What's the point? What's the point in playing him? What's the point?
I think 1990's got it in one. There's no reason to play Tom Lynch other than just shopping.
No one's buying Tom Lynch. No one's buying Tom Lynch.
Well, look, I don't know, but I don't think he'll be there next year.
Well, he could be.
And you think so?
Well, as a development coach.
Oh yeah, well he could well be that, and but not as part of our. Well, could be a player coach, yeah, I suppose. But and you're right. I suppose He really doesn't have any high value. But we don't really have any players with great trade value.
What's that got to do with Tommy Lynch?
Nothing, but nothing
I
at
mean,
all.
we're talking about Tom's selection. I don't know why he was selected. We've got a couple of kids who've been doing very well in the twos.
Who would you put in?
Well, you could try Gallant, you could try Cook, you could bring McCann back. Anyone but Tom Lynch.
I was hoping that they'd try Cook, but they might have thought that the Bulldogs is not the game to do that in. So
Well,
I'd be
it seemed to
disappointed
bother them with Ben Davis playing the Cats down at Cardinia Park. It seems to be the actual criteria that you put them in when they're going to get slaughtered, so that you only have to play them for one game.
I don't know that Ben Davis has been given the best of runs, but that's another story. I'd like to see Cook get at least a game before the end of the season.
He won't.
In place of Lynch.
No, he won't. The only even if Lynchy gets injured, it'll probably be McAdam that comes back in. We won't see Cook or Gallant this season.
Well, is Gallant contracted for next year?
Nope.
So, is he going to be here next year?
Wow. Would you want to stick around if you're not getting a run?
Well, it goes both ways. It's whether the club wants him as well.
Well, based on some a good stretch of SANFL form, I can't see why they wouldn't. I mean, you're right, Mac. You don't know what's going on behind the scenes. He might have already indicated that he doesn't want to renew, and therefore they don't play him. We don't know what's going on behind the scenes, and that's fair enough. Braden Cook, though, he's a local boy. He's been playing well. Could easily play that role.
Yeah, well, I'd like him to. I'd like to see what he can do. And, even if it's just the one game before the end of the year, just to let him know what it's like. That'll give him somewhere he can think about that. He'll know what level he's got to try and reach.
Yeah. I had a vigorous conversation with my son about all this on the weekend.
Did you?
Yeah,
that's why he's already fired up against us. He's had his practice.
Yeah, well, I'm a bit cynical this week because I just whatever.
I know
what. Jimmy Rowe comes back in and does exactly what he did before he dropped out. He kicks 5 goals in a trial game and they bring him back in. Why?
Well, as a non-selector, I can't answer it. But
he's not a good enough player to deserve that kind of treatment.
No, I don't think he is either. But well, you'd have to ask them why they pick him.
Well, I can't. They don't answer. That's why I'm asking you guys.
Well, if you can't work it out, mate, we can't either. I think Razor says our selection committee is shit, and I think it is. But look, they may have plans, they may have ideas, they may have directions they're heading to. We don't know. I don't know, but sometimes you look at it on the surface and you think, Jesus, I don't understand that.
I remember having a conversation a couple of years ago with you, Nick, and Pete on a Tuesday night live show, and talking about the absence of a plan. And Nikki, I don't know about you, but I still can't really see a plan. Can you?
In terms of selection and the way they're doing it, no.
Well,
I think it's a bit hard this year, and it definitely was last year because we had no SNFL that I could go and watch. And I know back when we had that conversation, I was going fairly regularly, and Pete was going to a couple of games as well. So we had an idea of what was going on in the twos and how we were playing, and you could see that we were trying to play the AFL style. You could see which players had started to show something and should be given a chance. And we could see the plan was that they literally had to bash down the door to get given an opportunity.
Yeah.
And they had to then perform at quite a higher level to stay in.
Yeah, I think that's the point, Nick.
Yeah, and I think that is their plan. which is wrong for development.
Yeah, it's certainly a philosophy.
And the stage where we're at. And that's what's frustrated me about our selection this year, because I can see that Nix has actually got faith in those kids. It appears to be when they're on the ground. In most areas, except the frickin' midfield. Van Berlo, will you stop putting your mates in there, please?
Well, Peter pointed out to me something that I wasn't aware of. The fact that we've seen Harry in the midfield over the last 3 weeks is as a result of Harry basically banging on Matthew Nix's door and demanding more midfield minutes.
Yeah.
That's correct.
And
to me, that's an indictment on the whole selection policy.
Because we can see that that's what we need, is we need him in there because of that speed and that outside that he provides. That is lacking, and the quality of his delivery. That is lacking in as much as we love Keys and Laddie, they are not skillful players. They never have been.
No.
And they never will be.
I can't argue with it.
And Sloan is a trier.
Had a good game on by his standards, and when I say by his standards, by this season's standards. That's probably one of his better games of the year, actually.
Yeah, but he still shouldn't have been in there.
Well, I can see that there is a game plan that they're trying to develop, and I think what they do, Fiend, is which might explain some of the strange selection processes, that they try people in that process, and if they don't carry it out, they try somebody else in that process. But they're pretty quick to pull the trigger as well at times with certain people. But I think they do have a good style of game plan in mind, which is to move it very quickly by hand where possible, and try and go through the centre and try and catch the opposition out with speed. But we don't quite have the midfield that can carry that out. I know when Harry gets in the midfield, he's one of the few that can actually do it. And
Harry's not the quickest player going around. It's all about putting the ball to your teammates' advantage. That's how you get the ball going.
Generally not a handball at their feet, which is a Crows special.
That's what I'm saying.
It has been for years.
When Harry's got the ball, though, he's used to it. It was far better. That's the point I was trying to make. And,
yeah. But he is also quicker than Ladd and Keys across that distance anyhow. So he's quicker in the brain, he's quicker in the skills, and he is slightly quicker of foot, which then means that handball game is a lot more proactive. You're right, Fiend and Macca. We look so much better when he's doing that running style. We can see that that's what Nix wants to play. But in order to do that, you look at the teams that do it successfully, they have a faster midfield.
Yes. You have to have leg speed.
Yeah. So you could have Ladd and Keys in there, but preferably you'd actually only have one of them at a time. And the other one may be on a wing or dropping back to half-back and then coming through. And you put Sloan on the half-forward line or the half-back line. But you'd have faster players. You'd put Pedler. You'd put... Unfortunately, Ronan O'Connell, we know he's got speed, but it doesn't seem to show at this level, or whether he's actually really given that opportunity.
He's been used as a tagger both times he's played.
Yeah.
Never been run on the outside.
No, and that's what he was in that West Coast Champs team. But I think we just look at him. Yeah, the W. Same thing, isn't it? Sorry, Freo supporters. But we kind of look at his height and everything else and go, oh, he can finally match up against, we've got somebody who can run with the big beastie midfielders, which is great if you were doing that to teach him how to be that type of midfielder, because he's got all those attributes to be that. It's a good way if the kid's able to learn by following this is where you run to and things like that. But if you never give him a chance to then be proactive, what's the use of that so-called lesson?
And I think this is where it gets to with me, Nick, is that we said at the beginning of the season that really the scoreboard was immaterial this year. It's good to get some wins, and it's good, like you run out there, you play to win. But the team or the club itself needed to have a strategy for the year in terms of rotating players through, finding out where individuals were at. And I feel like, in some cases we seem to have done that. We've reignited Chase Jones's career, which is great. But we've been in other areas. We've been very remiss in promoting certain players, and as I said, we don't know what's going on behind the scenes. We don't, they have a lot of sports science results and GPS data and all the rest of it that may tell them that certain people aren't ready when they look to be ready to the naked eye. So, I guess to a degree we've got to give the club the benefit of the doubt. But I just feel like we have a history of burning players that we pick in midfield roles by just not giving them the opportunity and playing them, on the fringes, or, like poor old Sam Berry, playing them in a forward pocket all year, and I just don't see any value in it. Yes, you're getting games into them, but you're not getting games where they're actually learning their craft.
Well, I thought Gary Lyon summed us up beautifully on the weekend. He said that, looking at the Crows, he said he liked the style of game plan that they're trying to execute. He said, well served down back, well served up forward, missing in the middle. And I think that's absolutely is our problem, is that we don't have that type of midfield that the really good sides have. They've got either a wizard in there or generally players with a lot of pace, and that's where that's what we've been talking about, and that's really when we go to the draft, we have to be going our first and second draft picks must be quick midfielders. It just has to be.
And I think that's what people need to realise when discussing the Crows, midfield rotations, and I include the wings on this. We're not saying that Sloane, Keys, and Laird are bad players, for example, but having Sloane, Keys, and Laird as the mainstays in our midfield rotation for the majority of the season. And with a defence which has held up surprisingly well given the youth in that defence, and with a forward line that has been a bit hit and miss but has shown at times to be quite potent, that midfield has delivered us currently 16th on the ladder. So it doesn't actually matter what you think of those players individually. Collectively, they've delivered us 16th on the ladder. And it should have been evident from a long way out that there was scope to add other players into that mix. If only, traditionally you'll have a couple on the bench and you'll run them through the midfield rotations. What happened to having 6 or 7 or 8 blokes that can run through the midfield and having them running through that rotation at various stages during the game? So we've seen in the last couple of weeks, Sam Berry has started to push up into that rotation. Harry Schoenberg, over the last 3 or 4 weeks, has been included in that rotation and attended some centre bounces. And you can say that Pedler has been hampered by injury at the beginning of the season, so he's probably underdone, etc. So maybe we've just been hamstrung by a lack of options. But I cast my mind back to the amount of midfield players that we've drafted over the course of the last 3 or 4 years, and what's happened to them, without exception, and we see the same 3 players in the midfield.
Yeah, no, we desperately need that blistering pace, and as I say, our first and second round draft pick, they just have to go for the best, classiest, fastest mid that they can get hold of.
Anyway. And that's what I'm worried about, is because Ogilvy doesn't seem to like those players.
Well, he doesn't select them, I know that.
Yeah, when we've had a chance to get players like that, he's gone for something else, and
Well,
that's worried me because we've long seen that the lack of pace in our midfield is an issue, and that was the way that the AFL was going. That's the way game plans were going. This isn't a new thing. This has been around for a number of years. If
And
we can see it, why can't they when that is their job?
you don't have to be an Olympic sprinter, but what you do have to have is burst speed, and
Yes.
it makes you wonder whether there's some shortcomings with the Adelaide Crows training program with regards to being able to develop that burst speed. We've seen a couple of our midfielders suffer severely from groin problems. Both Crouch boys suffered severely with groin and hamstring problems, in the last few years, which hampered their burst speed, their ability to burst out of packs. You see a kid like Harry who doesn't look fast, but he is fast enough that he's able to put in 3 or 4 quick steps and get separation enough to give himself time to use the ball. Even Sam Berry, who is a little bit one-paced in my opinion, he's still got he's very strong through the core, and he's still able to put in a few meters, and he's got a very good sidestep, Sam Berry.
You're starting to quaver again there, Fade.
Oh, sorry, mate. It's got a very good sidestep, Sam Berry.
No, it's still there.
So, how about now?
Still there.
Well, I can't do anything about it. Nothing's changed here. It must just be network.
Okay.
So, how's it sounding to the people in the audience? Is it a bit crackly, or is it just Discord?
Bit crackly to them.
Yeah. How about people on YouTube? Because I know the people saying it's crackling are all on Discord. I wonder if there's anyone not on Discord. How's that? Better?
Yep.
Yes.
All right. Okay. So, yeah. So maybe it's just a matter of lack of options. Maybe we feel that some kids are ready that maybe not ready, but it just underlines to me how important it is that we get our picks right, and it really flies in the face of the age-old philosophy of you take the best available talent with your first pick, because in my opinion, in this draft, if the best available talent was a bloody key defender and Hamish picked him, we'd just about have to drag him out the door.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I mean, Mackesy, I don't know why we took Mackesy and not a mid that year.
Yeah. Well,
we've never been in a situation of having quick mids, and we see all our sides that are successful. They do have them. It's about time we just got our act together, and as you said, abandon the best available talent, even if you've got 3 of them in that bloody position, and just took what we actually need. That would do me fine.
Yeah. Well, every time I've had this argument about picking for need in the first round, I've been shouted down. And yet, to my mind, we're the only competition in the world that just blindly takes the best available talent. What if you had 5 years in a row where the best available talent was a fullback? You'd end up with 5 fullbacks on your frickin' team. And
actually, we have got some good key defenders, and we've got good, hopefully, players in the twos that are going to be good key defenders. We've got plenty of defenders.
Yeah,
and
my point is that you don't just blindly pick a player because he's the best. He's considered the best talent at that pick, even if it's the first round.
I'm agreeing with you. Absolutely. Yeah. This year it's got to be mid.
All right, we've got 1990 in the live audience waiting patiently to have something to say, so I'll invite him in. It's always good to hear from our studio audience. 1990, how you going, mate?
Good, thanks, Phoenix. How you going? How you going, Mako, Nicky?
Good to hear, 9090. You always add something very good to us, so let's hear it.
I guess I sort of just was listening to the general conversation of how we've sort of selected our teams over the last few weeks and what our general plan was in this rebuild development phase that we're going through. And I completely agree with a lot of what you guys are saying. In particular, we don't appear to be picking the quantity or the players available to us that we think are going to be in our long-term plans. I'm not quite sure what the plan is at the moment, to be honest. I think we appear to be picking senior players like Lynch and McKay and these types for reasons that I can't quite work out. And not like for the last 2 weeks with COVID, we've had players unable to play SNFL, and yet we still decided to pick David McKay as sub, which just completely boggles my mind when you've got a spot for a player to potentially play an AFL game in the back half of the season. Moving into our future, we waste a game. We just seem to be wasting games week after week, and that's why I'm so frustrated at the moment, because I think I felt like this rebuild was gaining pace at the beginning of this season, and we were moving in the right direction. But I think the last 6 to 8 weeks I've become quite frustrated and can see that we're not really going in the right direction.
It's an interesting comment, and I think you're making a very good comment. Who would be the players that you would have liked to have seen given an opportunity, and who are the players that you think shouldn't be there? Oh, I think you actually really nominated the ones that shouldn't be there, but who would you like to see?
I think Mackesy and Worrell are quite stiff at the moment to not be getting games.
Yeah.
I think in particular last week we had Billy Frampton playing fullback. The first time of his entire career, despite having 2 top-end draft picks drafted as
a number 6 key defender.
I just can't work it out. I just can't work it out. Billy might, in the long term, become a serviceable key defender, but we've spent large capital in the draft trying to get someone like Fisher Mackesy ahead of midfielders, like you guys are saying. We've bypassed the need of midfielders and highly talented, speedful midfielders to get someone like Fisher, and we haven't picked him.
Yep.
And it's becoming a worry because, like, if Fisher doesn't get going soon, he's not going to develop, and he's not going to become worthy of that draft pick, which means we're going to have to spend another couple of drafts capital trying to get these midfielders. And even then, I don't really have great confidence that we're going to pick the right ones.
Well, the interesting thing is that Nix has come out publicly and said that he won't give players a game unless they earn it. There is such a thing as investing in players as well as...
Riley Thilthorpe earned it?
No.
No.
No, that's what I'm saying. You actually pick the player that you believe can develop into a good player, and you invest in them, and you give them games so that they can get the feel of it and gradually develop a game at that level. Otherwise, how do they ever do that?
I don't remember Charlie Cameron ever being quite ready for AFL when he first came in.
No, he wasn't either. And to me, on that whole point, this is what frustrates me, 1990, was at the start of the year we did give kids opportunities like Riley, like Berry. Yep. Rolly came straight in without any real solid form behind them. We gave those kids the opportunity. We were doing what we wanted to see and what we're discussing right now. And yet we started to get some wins on the board, and we've gone back to trying to win games. And it's like, no, we got those wins because you trusted those kids.
It's a very good point, Nikki. It's a very good point. And North Melbourne is a case in point of a team that looked about, Div 3 amateur league grade when they started this season. And yet they've persisted. They've got a couple of old heads, but they've persisted with young players. They've given them responsibility, and they're starting to see results.
Correct.
And if you were a North Melbourne fan right now, watching them, you'd be thinking 2022 and 2023 are starting to look pretty good.
So, yeah, don't disagree at all, 1990, and I think it's a furphy of Nick's to say, you know, blokes got to earn their spots, because when you're in a rebuild and when you're so far down in terms of redeveloping your list, and surely they must see at selection when they're looking at lists, or list management when they're looking at lists, that none of our senior players, no one over 27 on our list is going to feature in our next premiership contending squad. So, then you've got to throw the keys to the younger players. I mean, we're finally starting to see a little bit, in my opinion, we'll get to individuals in a minute, I don't want to continue this conversation too much longer, but we're finally starting to see a little bit out of Darcy Fogarty. But how many times has he been back and forth and back and forth and back and forth, and there's no continuity in the work that he's been given in the ones. We never even got a chance to see Ben Davis. We never really got a chance to see Jordan Gallucci in the midfield before he got jack of it and lost interest. There's been others as well, and there are times in a rebuild, or when you're rebuilding a side, where you've got to show a bit of faith in kids. And we show faith in a Riley Thilthorpe. Why can't we show a similar amount of faith in a Lockie Gallant or a Braden Cook, or more games into Josh Worrell instead of Jake Kelly, for example? I don't understand it.
Well,
I think that's the thing. Yeah. Sorry, Mackie, you go.
Yeah, no. All I was going to say is that, you started the conversation there, 1990, and Thien just took it up a little bit further, and you're quite right, because at the moment there's no glory in us winning games.
No, nothing to gain.
The players might like it, but it really adds up to nothing. It's still a zero at the end of the season. It's still just a zero. It doesn't matter anything. You don't want to stay at that level. You want to be able to have a graph and a curve that's rising, and the only way you're going to do that is to play these kids and get them to the state so they can increase their output, so they can get to the stage that when it all clicks, they can start to become good players, and eventually the team can rise. Yeah, you've got to keep adding to it every year. There's no doubt about that. But to some degree, we have wasted this back end of the year. I do agree with you, 1990.
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, I think there's still been good positives for the season. We've found a number of players that I think are going to be part of our long-term future. I just think, like we're saying, we've got to show further faith in the players that we think are going to be in our best 22 for whenever we think we might peak in 3 or 4 seasons' time. I just want to see it happen tomorrow. I don't want to see it happen next season.
Very good. Thank you, sir. Always a pleasure. 1990. I'll shuffle you back into the audience.
Thanks, 1990.
Need to get a wriggle on here. I'm not going to spend too much time on the head-to-heads because I think it's immaterial. Just for those listening, Port in the end got up 15-10-100 to the Giants 11-7-73. So the Giants squandering that opportunity to entrench themselves a little bit further in the 8 and remain in the dogfight for that position. So let's move forward and look at some head-to-head stats, and I'll just get my shit together here. Where are we? There we go. Look at that. It's amazing. Right. So as I said, I'm not going to spend too much time because I think it's pretty self-evident how the game panned out. The Bulldogs 372 to 331 disposals, 211 kicks to 185, 161 handballs to 146, inside 50s 65 to 40. Again, an indictment on our inability to get good transition going against the Bulldogs. They were able to shut us down between the arcs quite regularly. Our disposal efficiency wasn't bad. Our efficiency inside 50 wasn't bad. We just didn't get it in there enough. 20 free kicks each. Riley O'Brien, 49 to 36 hitouts. Clearances we lost convincingly, 44 to 35, although we absolutely destroyed them in centre clearances, 17 to 8. It'd be interesting to see in a minute who got those centre clearances. Around the ground, though, 36-18 in the Bulldogs' favour. So, and I saw a stat that I don't have in this little collection about their scores from stoppage, and it was quite telling. Contested possession was even. Uncontested possession, they had a bit more of the ball on the outside. Turnovers relatively even. Marks 85-68 in the Bulldogs' favour, including 17-8 inside 50. Irrespective of the fact that contested marks were even, so they were able to free players up. And Nick, you were saying at the outset about the matchups there and the fact that their tools didn't have a huge influence. Do you think maybe because one of our medium defenders was tied up looking after a tool that allowed them to rotate their medium and small forwards through effectively to hit the scoreboard?
I think. I'm just trying to think back to the game. No, I'm just trying to think back to the game because it really was. It was the way that their midfield moves it down, and they do have, and we've discussed it. They just have such a beautiful way of moving the ball. Because I actually look at some of those forwards, and they're not the most talented forwards, but they get the job done.
Yeah,
some of those passes were just sublime.
I think Josh Bruce is a little underrated. I think Norton's good on his day, and Ugle-Hagan could be a champion. But they're smaller players.
Ugle-Hagan's got.
They're smaller players that run through there are where they can get under your guard, and Bontempelli can get under your guard too. I noticed the Bont was on Kelly a bit. They played him forward a fair bit, and that's a luxury you wouldn't mind having. Being able to play your Brownlow medal favourite, 50% up forward in a game just to give him a bit of a break.
Yeah, he was up there, and I thought, I don't know whether it was Kelly or the team, whatever. The Bont didn't really cause us great pains up there. Waitman is the young player who when you talk about small, he's not even really that small. He's a good size small, if you like, and. I thought he had a very good game, and he runs around a lot. He makes leads. He makes it a lot easier for the Tools by taking players out of there as well. So
and he hits the contest hard, Waitman, aerially. For a bloke who isn't there marking target, when he does go up for a mark, he straight lines it. Very impressive.
Yeah, I really like him as a player, and. I think, to some degree, I can't think of any other smalls up there that really caused us any pain in their feet. I thought Waitman in particular was the main pain, and as I said, he plays his own game, and to that degree, he opens it up there for the Tools as well.
Yeah, it's probably not a bad point. Matt, they all kind of chipped in, didn't they? There wasn't anyone really dominating, but that's the thing. They all chipped in. They were able to share it around. And they all got involved, didn't they? So, yeah.
Hunter he likes to sneak down there if he can and get a goal or two as well.
Yeah. So, some of the parts, really, in terms of where the Bulldogs got their score from. One thing I will touch on is tackles. Tackles inside 50 improved, 14 apiece. Tackles overall 69-58 in the Bulldogs' favour, but I tell you what though, there was a fair number of broken tackles and a fair number of being able to get the arms free in Adelaide tackles. Our tackling didn't seem to be terribly effective, in my opinion.
Some of our smaller players, Rowe got caught out a couple of times, and McKenzie did too, just trying to use arms rather than the whole body. And they in general, I think our blokes tried pretty well to tackle, but some of the smaller ones, if you're small, you got to go straight at body and everything, not just arms.
And for me, it's not just those broken tackles; it's the ones where we couldn't even reach them.
Yeah, we just put an arm out or something like that.
Yeah, that we didn't get close enough. It was more, I'll try from out here instead of actually getting closer. And even if you can't make the tackle, you're still putting body pressure on.
Yes, indeed, Nick. I agree with you. Now, our individual stats. Let's have a look. Sloaney was actually our highest disposal getter for the game with 26, 12 and 14. Had 4 clearances. Lairdy, 25 touches, 10 and 15 with 10 tackles, if you don't mind, and 4 clearances. Brodie Smith, 23 disposals with 3 clearances. Ben Keys, 22 disposals with 7 clearances. Seedsman had a quiet game by his standards. Still had 442 metres gained, but only the 22 touches. Smithers had 648 metres gained, but he was playing quite deep. So a lot of his long kicks were out of the back half, including that monster that he kicked to the centre of the field. How was that? The first quarter, I think it was.
How far do you reckon that one went for? That looked about a 70 metre, I reckon.
I reckon it was longer than that. It was ridiculous.
It
just kept going.
I know, it was a ripper, because he did have the breeze behind him. He just got it up in the right channel of the breeze, and it just kept going.
Yeah. Andy McPherson, a bit of a return to form, I thought, for Moose, coinciding with him getting rid of that mop, which is the best thing he's done all season. 21 touches.
Because God knows hair's got so much to do with football ability. No, I'm sorry. I just remember those discussions of Big Footy. It always used to amuse me when anybody had a man bun and just everybody seemed to get on their high horse that he needs to cut it in order. So I actually thought that obviously if you're a footballer, you're a reverse Samson. You've got to have short hair.
You couldn't have been in favour with Andy McPherson's mop.
Yeah, J-Mac stole my bloody line. I mean, Hamill should grow his hair long and put his headband back on again.
Yeah, slight return to form for Hamill as well. But yeah, I agree. He has played better with his hair a bit shorter, which is it's 100%. Hilarious. I don't think it's quite the haircut that's done it.
Mm-hmm. Harry Schoenberg with continued midfield minutes had not a bad game. A little bit wasteful with the ball, but 21 touches, 10 and 11. 3 tackles, 4 clearances. Was a good game. I thought Tom Diday was good across half-back. A few intercept marks, had 20 touches and gained nearly 400 metres. 7 marks he took as well, which I think was pretty much a game high for us. Yep, it was. Riley O'Brien, I feel like he's getting back to some sort of marking form around the ground, which is good to see. The last couple of weeks he's been taking some crackling again, I hear.
Yeah,
is it? I'm not sure what's going on, but is that better?
Yep.
Yeah, just on Rob, he was up against the type of ruckman that you've identified he struggles with because of that arm reach and that bit of the jump. But I actually thought he didn't do too badly, and agree, around the ground. I thought there's some more marks he possibly could have stuck a bit better, or, quite enjoying the gift from Razor at the moment in the chat. But I agree, he's definitely kind of picked up around the ground the past couple of weeks.
I thought he did. I thought he around the ground. I thought his efforts were pretty good, and then he took some good saving marks as well. Oh yeah,
in defence he did.
In defence, I'm talking about in defence. I think, which means he's worked hard to drop back there and then also to take the mark as well. So it hasn't been the greatest of years for him, not compared to his best years, but I think he's just starting to come a little bit of form. But he does have trouble with anybody with long arms. He really does.
Yeah.
Well, that's attacks.
As I said to you once before, Mac, I don't mind him losing rucks as long as our midfielder are across it, and as long as we still get value from him around the ground. And I feel like we're back to. Riley's not going to take every mark. Sometimes he gets a bit vertical with it. But as long as he's contesting, he usually nullifies the contest, and that's the most you can probably ask for a bloke who, let's be honest, is a bargain basement ruckman.
Yeah.
Tom Lynch was a waste of space with 18 touches, 9 and 9. As I said, four marks, 3 tackles. Not really sure why he was in. Lockie Murphy, 17 touches. Jake Kelly, 13 touches. Didn't play too badly, Jake, I didn't think. Ned McHenry, probably not enough of the ball, 13 disposals. James Rowe.
Did some good pressure, like some of our nice movements. I think Ned was involved with, a bit of that pressure and the hustle that were happening, particularly against some of those stronger Bulldogs mids.
You're always going to get that from Ned because that's the type of player he is. But I hope he had a good long look at Caleb Daniels' tape.
Oh
to
yeah.
To see how effective a small player can be, and what Ned needs to do. Like, effort is fantastic, but in this day and age with AFL football, you can't waste a player. Every player on the ground needs to have a role and be able to execute that role. I'm not 100% sure what Ned McHenry's role is at the moment, and if all it is to harass, that's a waste of a position, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, you're right. He'll always give you 100% effort, but it's not always expended in a useful fashion. So, and look, I don't know whether that's his fault, the coach's fault, or whether it's just the way the game is being played.
He's been given plenty of opportunities, Mac.
He has.
He's playing up around the ball.
Yeah, well, he's playing up high, very high. So, I think he's very courageous, and he goes in hard, but. He did a few arm tackles which I didn't like. In other words, he sort of reached rather than did his angry ant thing where he really jumped all over them. So no, but he's never going to be a star for us. But you're right. If he used the Bulldogs player as a role model, it wouldn't do harm anyhow.
Yeah, and let's face it, Caleb Daniel was a bit of a freak. And the size comparison isn't necessarily relevant, but I think what Ned needs to do is to understand where he sits in terms of the game plan, and the coaches probably need to clarify that with him as well. He's very good at hitting up short passes on transition. I'd like to see him actually get more ball on the way out as the first or the second give off half back, because he's very good with the next kick. He's not so good crumbing deeper forward. So I don't know. Good honest try. I'm just not quite sure where Ned fits at the moment. James Rowe, I'm not a fan of. 12 and 7. Elliot Himmelberg, I thought didn't have a bad day. Got to a lot of good areas. Didn't probably take as many marks as he would have liked. But certainly wasn't bad.
Got done dirty by the umps a couple of times with some of those marking attempts.
Yeah, he did actually.
He did. At least twice he got cheated for, isn't it? He got definitely. He marked it. One was clean as a whistle.
Yeah.
The other one one was looked like it might have been from the wrong angle, but he still did mark it. But one was so clean. One was so clean, I just can't work out why it wasn't paid.
Yeah, no, I do recall that now that you say it. So, it'll be interesting to see what we do with Elliot going forward. He's a very interesting one.
I like him.
Mrs. Himmelberg. Yeah.
Where does he fit though with an up and coming Riley Thilthorpe?
I think I like him in the ruck as well, though.
I don't want to play him as a ruckman.
No, not as a ruckman, but as our second one. So if you like having that kind of the shape, it means Fog moves up to Texas spot, and you've then got Himmer can actually move up and do the centre half forward and do the higher roaming as well. And then you've got him and Tilthorpe swapping, or the one resting on the bench and then coming on to provide that backup as well. If we don't want to use Riley too much in the ruck to begin with to get that banged up body, which I think is a smart thing to do for him, you want to leave him up forward most of the time. I think that's the mix that you want to do. As much as Tex has had a great year, and yes, we have signed him for next year, it should be Himmelberg, Fog, and Tilthorpe. They're the three who have actually shown consistently, and they're very interesting consistently with Fogg, but he's gotten a lot better with the opportunities he's been given.
What are your thoughts on that, Macca?
Well, with the style of game plan that we're playing, and even if we had decent mids delivering the ball, you don't really need all that many tools. But look, I thought Himmelberg, of the players who, if you compare him to Frampton, he's much better than Frampton up forward. Sometimes looks a little bit too casual for my liking. Other times he looks intense. When he looks like that, he's pretty good. But as a structure, I do like the idea of what Nicky said. That means that there's no Taylor Walker there, and there won't be a Taylor Walker there long term. So I think, in terms of a structure long term, I would be happy with what Nicky's talking about. But yeah, Himmelberg, Bilthorpe, and Fogg at centre forward. I thought Fogg actually advanced his status in this game. We were playing against a very, very good team. I thought he showed a little bit more last week, and I thought he showed a little bit more again this week. And then in a team that's not going so well, it's good to see Fogg actually starting to finally show that he is improving. And I've liked his last two games. And this one much better than even the one before. So I think long term, I think Nicky's right. I think that's probably how we'll structure. But, many things can change. McAtee might end up as a forward instead of a backman. But on what we know, that's how I think I'd structure.
Yeah, I think you can go two ways with Himmelberg. He's either going on the trade table, or I'm actually warming to the idea of him and Riley being able to switch at a high half-forward level.
Yep.
Because both of them have got some wheels. Elliott's got good aerobic fitness, and both of them are really good at ground level. So they're not a liability up around the wing because they can move the ball on. They're good with their hands. They can find targets. They can hit players on the move. And I'm starting to think along this, and that's why I was interested in your thoughts, because I found myself nodding when Nick was talking, because I actually don't mind that configuration at all.
And the other thing is, just to add to what they both bring, they're both very, very, very hard to outmark.
Yeah,
Good
you've got to make sure that your wings and your high half forwards are doing the right thing, Lockie Murphy, and actually getting to their feet. But I don't actually mind it having that. The problem I think we've got is what we end up doing with Tex. If Tex wants another year, and he's got it, that kind of messes the whole thing up. And does Himmelberg hang around for another year, waiting for that spot to open?
He's contracted.
Yeah, I know, but it doesn't mean he can't ask for a trade, Macca.
That's true. Doesn't mean he'll get it either.
No, but I mean, the point is, what value is there in having Elliot Himmelberg spending another year in the twos at the expense of a 32-year-old forward?
I 100% agree with you. I think, Walker's actually, he's had a very, very good year, but he's presented more problems than he has solutions.
I'm going to put a caveat on that, Macca, sorry to interrupt, by saying Walker had a very good first half of the year. I don't think it's been anywhere near as convincing since the bye.
Agreed.
Certainly not as consistent.
But the downside of him having his good year is that I believe that it's definitely slowed down and delayed our development up forward, because Walker's actually been the linchpin of it and the target rather than anybody else. And of course he's at the end of his career. As you say, he's died a little bit in terms of his form in the last few weeks, and next year very, very ordinary. Who knows?
Yeah, so look, I'm with you guys. I think Elliot is worth persevering with, but I wouldn't mind betting that he might be involved in something to get us a pick. But anyway, either way. Who else? I thought Nick Murray did well. I thought Geordie Butts did well down back. Sam Berry, limited opportunities, didn't get a lot of it, but when he did go into that midfield rotation, he showed a couple of things. Like I said, he's got a great little sidestep in traffic that gets him a bit of separation, Nicky and Mac, that I really like, and I can see him being more than just an in and under midfielder. I think he can get through traffic, which means that he can open up the outside run on the other side of the pack.
And he did that in his very first game. I remember him doing that little sidestep, and we all just kind of went, well, hang on, we've got one here. He wasn't just a tackle machine that we've been told about.
Yeah, a little bit more than that.
Oh, yeah. The other one I actually think who did well, Hamill.
Well, I disagree with you. He only had 6 kicks.
Yeah, I was surprised when you said that, Nicky. I didn't think he did much at all.
In the first, he went kind of missing in the third quarter. We saw him a little bit more in the last, but just the way he was defensively, he was a bit more attacking, particularly when we were having that nice run on in the, particularly that first quarter, and even that little bit of nice run we were getting in the second. He was involved with a lot of those kind of plays. And
considering how much ball was in their forward 50, he didn't. And considering the makeup of our defensive 50, that we didn't have a lot of run, we were relying on Chase and Will to provide us with something. Chase had 4 touches, Will had 6. I thought both of them were actually a bit disappointing.
Yeah, I'm in your corner here, Fiend. Yeah, no, they not horrible, but not good.
Yeah, what they did okay, but they just were not involved enough, I guess, is where I sit on that.
Yeah, so, me too.
So not earth-shattering stuff, as I said. I've probably whisked through it a little bit, simply because, in the end it doesn't really matter, does it?
No, it doesn't.
I thought overall it was a gallant display, even though it blew out in the end. Blew out in the end a little bit and got away from us a little bit. I think that was more indicative of the strength of Western Bulldogs rather than any drop-off in endeavour. Where it probably was a fair indication of the gap between the two teams, in my opinion.
Yeah, I thought probably... I think we did very well to restrict that to that gap, because I would actually put them a little bit higher than that above us. But I wasn't disappointed with our game. I thought that, given who we played against and the quality of the players that we played against and the style of game that they play, which is very hard to contain, I thought that we did pretty well to restrict it to that. If we played like some of the games we have in the past, we could have got beaten by 20 goals or more by that side. So I think that was a reasonably good effort, given the talent, what we're putting on the park against what they're putting on the park.
Yeah, Razor in the chat makes a really good point. Our kids do seem to play with a lot of heart, and I noticed from the player interviews we did with the young kids at the beginning of the season, a lot of them felt like they were part of a new beginning at the Crows, and I actually think that's more important than quote-unquote winning culture. And I think the way you keep young people engaged is to actually show faith in them and have them involved. There's nothing surer than to lose the attention of a young person than by not actually giving them any responsibility. And I think this is probably where I'm coming from with the whole thing, that the kids want to be the future. They really are the future. Yes, we're short on talent at the moment. But they really need to be given the keys a little bit more, and I'd like to see over the last 4 weeks that they get a bit more opportunity.
Weeks, Fiend?
What's that?
3 weeks, isn't it?
Something like that. Whatever it is.
Around
3
20.
weeks,
It's
right.
only...
3 weeks, that's right.
Yeah, but I do agree with what you're saying, though. The principle of what you're saying is quite correct, and we really should be. The results don't matter for us. They just don't matter. But it should be given... I'd like to see Cook... I don't know whether they want to play Cook or not, or whether there's something in his game they don't think he's ready or whatever. But I would like to see, Worrell get another game. I'd like to see if we're going to get rid of O'Connor, give him another try just to see if he can, and let him play as a proper midfielder rather than as a tagger.
I don't think O'Connor stays on the list, unfortunately. Now, Tommy Gunn has come in with a bang. Pardon the pun, Tommy Gunn with a bang. Dropping a rumour but not naming a name. Now, Tommy, we have a rule with Crowcast that if you're going to drop a rumour like that, you have to be prepared to actually give us a name. So you either drop a name or you'll be shouting more than one round of beers at the Crowcast end of season camp. Anyway.
What I would like to see Tommy Gunn do at a minimum is just tell us what club, if you're not going to tell us the name of the player.
Yeah, club at a minimum, but name of the player in particular. We've got a couple of minutes left. There's a few people in the live studio audience. If anyone wants to have something to say before we finish up, now is the time. So your final thoughts. We've got who we got next week? We've got bloody Port next week, haven't we?
Yep, we do. And who knows where it's going to be.
Well, it's allegedly our showdown, and there is a chance it could be at Adelaide Oval, because we're not in lockdown and we're not in restrictions. But unfortunately, every time we have a home game, we've either got no supporters or bloody restricted. The
problem is both our teams are in Victoria at the moment, and there's a mandatory quarantine period. So it depends on whether I think Victoria were able to get their teams out of Queensland because they had faith in the AFL bubble, but the South Australian government in the past has not shown the same level of faith in that. So I wouldn't mind betting we actually see our first bloody Melbourne-based showdown, to be honest with you.
Well, that's a great home ground advantage to us, isn't it?
Well, there'd have to be some payoff on that next season.
You'd think so. But look, I don't believe we could win it anyhow. Port Adelaide are one of the better teams in the competition. They're probably maybe the fourth best team in the competition, maybe the fifth. I still don't think they're up to the standard of 1, 2, 3. But no, we won't win it. If they go flat out, they could probably win it by 10. That's my opinion.
I'll be fine if it's interstate, so I don't have to go and watch it.
We don't know. It's twisting your arm.
Oh, no. If it's a home game and we're allowed in, yeah, I'll be there. I hate losing to them just because they really enjoy it. Yeah, pretty much with Mac is that, they will definitely fire up even more so to give a chance to give a really good killing shot off for us. And it'll, and if they keep Lynch in the side, everything else, it's just going to happen.
Yeah, I don't.
Oh, similar to what you said.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's an 8 to 10. I don't think we've got the cattle at the moment. The Power got a few players back. It seemed to be going all right. It was a good solid win tonight, obviously, against GWS, who had something to play for. I don't think we have a lot left to play for. And it's been a long season for a couple of the kids who haven't had much of a rest. And see, that's the paradox, isn't it? We've had blokes like Sam Berry and Ned McHenry who have played the majority of the season, and other kids who can't get a look in for one more than one game. Anyway, get off my hobby horse. All right, well, that looks to be it. Disappointingly, Tommy Gunn came in here. I want to say, I will only say either a Gold Coast or a Sydney player. So he's either talking about Dylan Stevens or Jack Lukosius. I reckon that's the equivalent of a round of beers. Tommy, that's as weak as water. if you ask me.
Well, given if it's a Gold Coast player, it could be Rankin as well.
No, it could be Rankin, I guess.
So Rankin or Lukosius. Sydney it would be Stevens.
Yeah, I'd say so. Look, thanks to everyone who's joined us on Discord and also on YouTube. Don't forget if you want to give us some support on Patreon, you can go to patreon.com/AFL Crowcast. We appreciate everyone who's supported us on Patreon during the course of the season. I am in the midst of planning a little end of year drink session, considering our year's going to be finishing early. We might get together and watch a finals game during the course of the final series if the COVID restrictions lift. In the interim, Nikki, Macca, thank you very much for joining me once again. We'll be back on Tuesday night with Tuesday Night Live, of course, but in the meantime, everyone stay safe, and we'll see you later on.
Yep, night all.
Night all.